My senior year of high school, I decided to run cross country. I had been a track athlete in the past, ran the 400 meter and the 800 meter, and never had been in a race longer than a mile. I didn't consider myself a distance runner, consider myself middle distance or even a sprinter at some level. And I had never in a million years imagined running a 5K race of 3.1 mile. But my coach in track, the guy who handled the middle distance and distance runners, named Coach Harmon, and Coach Hartman decided that I needed more mileage. So he said, come out for cross country this year. It's your senior year. Just do it just to get some more mileage. You'll learn how to run a little longer, a little harder, a little faster. So I'm like, okay, why not? I mean, it can't be that hard, right? I was wrong. It was awful. I mean, these guys, I ran with some beasts, some guys who ran 1550 and 1551, 1554 in the 5K and the 3.1 mile. And these guys were running 5, 7, 10 miles at a time. And they're running about 70 miles a week. They run 5 miles every morning before school. And then they do the regular workout that could be anywhere between 5 and 12 miles after school. They were just crazy in my book. But I got in there and started running. I'll never forget the first morning run. Ran 5 miles. It was crazy because we would run 2.5 miles up, and it just happened to be at a McDonald's. And then we'd run 2.5 miles back to the school. And I got to where I would get the manager to meet me at McDonald's at the 2.5 mile part. I'd buy some McDonald's, I'd run 2.5 miles back, and then he would meet me there with my McDonald's. And so, but I did it, and I remember the first time I ran that 5 miles, I was worn slap out. I was ready to quit. This week, day 5, you're probably worn out. If you've been following the challenges, you've done some really tough things in self-denial. You've put God and others in front of yourself. You've fasted for 12 hours a couple times, and you've gotten to this point where you might be ready to quit. I just want to give you some encouragement today. Today is not about me teaching on self-denial. You've heard that for 4 days now. You're going to hear it for a couple more days after this. But today, kind of in the past the halfway point, I want to give you some encouragement. Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 9. All athletes are disciplined in training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. Stop right there for a second. You're doing this for an eternal prize, to have eternal impact and an eternal value with your relationship with God and the way you give the gospel to other people. Relationship matters. You're doing this to have an eternal impact. Verse 26, so I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. Paul says we do this. We discipline ourselves. We put these disciple things in our toolkit. The discipleship journey is a toolkit that we can have to disciple and discipline ourselves so that we're not just out there going through the motions. If you know what shadow boxing is, it's boxing your shadow when no one's really there. You're just going through the motions. My hope and prayer for you today is that you're not just going through the motions in this discipleship journey, especially in this week of self-denial. I know you can be at a place right now where you're worn slap out, but I want you to know, keep going. We discipline our bodies as to make an eternal impact. We're not just shadow boxing. Paul goes on to say, I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself may be disqualified. My prayer for you today is this, that you will continue on this road of the discipleship journey, that you are encouraged in the fact that you're putting things in your disciple toolkit, You're doing things that are going to help train you and move you along, grow you, transform you into the person God wants you to be. These things that we're doing, even this week of self-denial, we're learning to obey God and obey the scriptures. We're learning to know God more deeply, and we are learning to become the person that God has planned for you to be and to become more and more like Christ daily. That's what it's about. Disciplining your body to do what it ought to. You see, that first time I ran the 5 miles, I wanted to quit, but I didn't. I showed up every day. And there were days when I hated it. Absolutely hated it. There were days when I didn't want to do it. I would lie to my coach. I'd say, oh yeah, I ran the miles this weekend, knowing I didn't do anything the weekend before. And then I would run a race and he'd go, you didn't run the miles, did you? And I'd have to fess up, but I kept showing up. I kept going. By the end of my senior year, because I showed up every day, disciplined my body, did the hard things, and I did hard training, I got to where I was running a 3.1 mile in 16 minutes flat. I ended up being the third best runner on our varsity cross-country team, a team that had 5 guys go under 17 minutes. We were beasts. But it was only because we disciplined our body to do exactly what it should. My hope and prayer for you today is this: do not give up. The discipleship journey is just that. It's a journey. It's a process. It's an everyday thing. And even in this journey of self-denial, where we put God and others above ourselves, something that's not natural in our culture today, I pray that you will continue to discipline your body, to be the disciple that God has called you to be, so that we can obey, so that we can know, and so that we can become. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. God bless you today.